you may be finding yourself in a place in life where it's very, very difficult for you to hope, right? And this can come for many different reasons. But some specific reasons may be your life is extremely difficult and it has always consistently been very difficult. And you're kind of at your wits' end. You're very drained from fighting that fight every day, and you just don't know how you're gonna survive. And that's one way of why you might be losing hope. And the other case may be, you know, you're actively fighting. You're doing all these things to make your life better, to live your life the way you want to. And then you find yourself that consistently it's not working, right? And every time you have hope that things are gonna be better, and you try a bunch of things and you're motivated at that time, but you always keep finding yourself failing over and over again. And so when you have this, it's very difficult for you to feel any kind of hope. So when you are hopeless, right? You have to have a very big drive. You have to have a somewhat of a fairly large size of inspiration in order for you to kind of kick that state out first and get you to that place of like, you know what? Let's do this, right? And so what I'm saying is when your default state is when your default perspective on life and the outlook that you have in general is that it's not really working out, it takes a lot of energy to get you to that place of let's try something, right? And the really cruel thing is just because you got yourself out of that hopeless state and you're ready to try one more time, it doesn't guarantee that things are gonna work. And that's the super fucked up part, right? Because it seems so unfair. I was so hopeless, but you know what, Billy, this July life coach guy was like, "Hey, you should have hope," and I was like, "You know what? Yeah, you know what? I think I deserve another chance. So let's really go through this. Let's do it one more time." And then I failed, and you remind yourself, "Oh, this is why I don't try things. This is why I don't do it because it feels absolutely horrible. I wanted to avoid precisely this possibility by not trying anything." So my hopelessness was actually a way of coping so that I don't try anymore. Because at least then I don't have to feel hurt by the disappointment that comes from the stupid act of trying, right? And so that is the battle that goes on in the mind of the hopeless person over and over and over again. And that's what makes it so difficult for hopeless people to really do anything. Because when you don't want to do anything, getting to that state of needing to do something is already hard. And in that already hard space, you don't want to fail. But then because you're not guaranteed success at any point in your life, you can fail again. And you just don't want to do that. So, how do we navigate around this problem? Is the core dilemma that we're trying to solve here today, right? And the core dilemma is actually very reminiscent of something. And that something is the concept of suffering. So, Buddha said life is suffering. Why? You can refer to my other, Buddhism videos about this, but when you have a desire, right? I want a girlfriend, I want a boyfriend, or I want a close group of friends who will love me. I want good parents. I want parents who love me and support me. When you have those desires, right? It either goes one of two ways. Number one, you get it, and then you get used to it. And then you feel the lack of it again. And then you start wanting it again. I'm sure you've heard this a lot in, like, dating forums, but suppose you're innately naturally a very lonely person, right? And suppose you get a significant other, boy slash girlfriend. There's nothing that stops you from feeling lonely while you're dating someone. Yes, at first it's gonna feel good. Yes, at first it's gonna feel novel. But you're gonna get used to that feeling and how you lived your life before. Basically, the pursuit of that significant other is going to start again. And this is why a lot of relationships fail, right? Because they thought having the significant other was kind of the ultimate cure-all for everything, but it turns out it's not. Suppose, okay, so that's the one way of where I get what I want. And secondly, needless to say, when I don't get what I want, it feels bad. Because why? I want that, but I don't have it. Therefore, I'm always confronted with the lack of the thing that I want. And this really good example of this is like the entire weight loss industry and the plastic surgery kind of industry, right? So, plastic surgery, oh, if only I had better eyes. And then you get the eye surgery, and then you get used to that new face. And then you're like, oh, if I had a better nose. And then you work on your nose, and then you get used to that new face. And then you do all these things, but then suppose you get to that state of like where you're like perfectly look the way you want. But now what happens to literally everybody? They get old. And so as you age, your face will naturally change, right? And so that's going to be unbearable. So basically, every time you want something, that's the recipe for suffering, right? And so far, we talked about more like tangible single topics. Boyfriend, girlfriend. Like good grades, good university degree, good job, good title, lots of money in your bank account, etc., etc. But now, this also applies, right? To the notion of success and failure. And also, in the video advocating for hope, I have to tell you that the pursuit and the idea of hope becomes its own pursuit of something, right? So, really, the topic of this video is trying to help you understand that having hope is different from the expectation that your life is going to be different in a more happy way, and you're going to succeed at the things that you want to have. Because that will just have you repeating the cycle, repeating the reincarnation of desire, of suffering. And that's not the point of hope. The point of hope is, in the Buddhist way, hope that you will be conscious and awake enough to realize that everything that you thought was bad and good about life were just really convincing images from a dream. If you're a young adult, you probably remember the things that happened in your junior high or like high school. At that point, those things, the interactions that you had, felt like it would just be the biggest parts of your life. But after you graduate college, you seldom think about those times, right? Perspective changes. If you are in your 30s, you remember your teenage days and early 20s where you did a lot of stupid stuff. And you went through a lot of stuff too, and you come to understand that, oh, well, values change. And a lot of people get disappointed by friends, they get backstabbed, and then what they consider friends changes, right? And how much value they place on friendships in general, that also changes, right? So just like that, the preconceived ideas that you have about, I want that because that is good. There's hope for me because my life can be different. That can change. And that can change in a way that helps you not suffer anymore. So the hope I am trying to foster in my viewers is not the hope that you will become rich. It's not the hope that you will become like successful. It's not the hope that you will be the most loved person in the world. That you're gonna fix all your family issues and all those things like that. The hope that I want to foster in you is that you can be a happy person. And by happy person, I don't mean feeling joyous and bubbly and exuberant all the time. I don't mean that. Because when you search for only that, and when that becomes the basis of what you define your happiness with, then you only have one way to go: drugs. Happy means you're not suffering. Healthy means you're not sick. I want to foster the idea of hope for you. In which I mean, I want you to believe in a life where you don't suffer. Even with your narcissistic boss. Even with your crazy parents. Even if your older siblings who are absolute bullies and dicks. Even with people at your school who bully you relentlessly. Even after a car accident, even with a genetic defect, even after you lose out in competitions, you don't have to suffer. And that is the hope I would like for you to have. Especially when you are hopeless. I want you to understand that there's a life in you that can be placed in the same situation as you. And that you will not be suffering right now. I need you to start getting in contact with that version of yourself. And that is my more complete take on hope itself and hopelessness.